Yeah.
New class.
Come on.
Old
It's
school.
for the
Yeah.
old school.
Look. And how we
Green
living
ass
out there.
twin.
I got a plan, sorta. All I need is one mic and a camcorder. You might have heard of luck. If you never did, you should turn this up.
Let go.
And take a good listen to the street knowledge that the hood missing. I got a plan, sorta. All I need is one mic and a camcorder.
Thank you for joining us again here at Men in 10, where we talk about issues that are real to us men in 10 minutes. My name is Christian Cole of the Student African Brotherhood here at Stony Brook University. I'm joined here with...
My name is Isaiah J. Harris. I'm the Sergeant at Arms for the Student African Brotherhood.
William Braxton. I'm the Community Service Chair of the Student African Brotherhood.
All right, so thank you guys for joining me again. We're going to continue our conversation. And we discussed criminalization of black males, and we started to get into how it relates to higher ed and how it manifests itself in higher education. So I just want to hear a bit more about how you guys feel the idea or the realization that you are sometimes perceived with a criminal element just because you're black in general situations, but specifically in your educational and academic endeavors, especially at a predominantly white institution.
I think you're combating a pre-existing ideology based on the professor, TAs, faculty, administration, etc.'s past experiences with people who have looked like you. Especially at a predominantly white institution where the black student population is less than 10%. You sometimes struggle to find someone who looks like you, someone who represents what you want to be, is either fulfilling a career goal that you're striving towards. It's very hard to find that relationship. And we have allies here on campus and some great mentors that we found, but it's not something that's overtly presented. Specifically the context of trying to communicate with professors, things of that nature. Like I was saying before, it's not always an aspect of specifically decriminalization, but it's just breaking through a lot of stereotypical barriers that are placed in front of you. And I feel like personally, with a lot of the engagements and situations that I've had, is people underestimate my intelligence and think that they have to talk down or oversimplify things so that I can understand it. But I actually think that that's a disservice, not just to me, but to anyone of my culture in general to make that sort of assumption.
And, I think it's also a battle within yourself. It's a battle with what preconceived notions you may have from past experiences. It's a battle with what you might walk into something thinking about yourself or believe in yourself, like kind of like a stereotype there. Are you going to walk into this a TA's office hours already thinking that, all right, I'm black, I'm going to have to carry myself this way or that way, where, sometimes that may be the case, but sometimes it may not be the case, and you could just be putting pressure on yourself. And that goes back to constantly being aware of who you are, where, where in college, this is kind of the growing years where, like, you're supposed to grow into yourself, learn more about yourself. But instead of doing that, we're constantly thinking about who we are, or more so, who we are perceived to be by others.
So I love that word you use, battle. Let's talk about a battle. And in aspects, we tend to think battle physically, but let's talk about the mental battle. A lot of black males go through a mental battle that they're not prepared for, and they're not willing to even admit to themselves. So I just want to ask you about that. How do we feel that the criminalization of men, the realization of our double consciousness, as well as just even placing your own limitations on yourself, like you described, that idea that before you even start, you think you're defeated, that lack of a locus of control in one's actions and one's outcomes and one's success in life in general. How do we deal with that battle, and how do we start that conversation? What are some clear mental health issues that we deal with as black men?
I think, you kind of asked like a multiple questions, so I'll start with how I feel about the battle. I think, even like realizing this is a mission within itself. We go through, we're still very young. We're still growing up in many ways. We're still maturing. We're still learning so much. Yet we have to be aware of so many other things, so many other things that we like, you hear like, oh, you got to work twice as hard. You could be stereotyped and whatnot, where we may not feel like we have control of our own destiny. So I think that kind of goes into some of the mental health aspects of having anxiety, having depression, and all that stuff. Is a lot of it, in my opinion, boils down to, do you feel like you have control of where you're going to end up? Do you feel like you have control of your destiny, your fate? And do you have control of who you are?
Absolutely. I think for me it was a confidence issue, especially when I started out and I came here my first semester. I struggled to find not just people who looked like me. I struggled to find an initiative in myself to want to instigate and put myself out there to become involved with different organizations, to go to office hours and speak to professors, because I didn't feel adequate enough to put myself in those positions to make myself that uncomfortable, because I didn't feel like I had a safety net to catch me if I fell. And that's something that I've worked on a lot over the past years, and it's helped me step into a lot of the leadership positions that I have and be able to not just communicate effectively in my person, but be able to help out my peers, and even have people come to me for questions on how to deal with these issues. And I just think overall it takes a tremendous amount of willpower to recognize that these are all systematic issues that you have to face, but it's not impossible. And I think that's the message that we have to send back to the youth in our communities, that yes, it's hard, yes, it's difficult, but it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like a lot of people try to tackle their issues or that battle with themselves, that lack of confidence, by not trying. They say, I'm not interested, I don't care, or whatever happens, or I have other things to do, I'm going to get this money. Like, those kind of self-defeating attitudes try to mask that feeling of inadequacy. And I feel like once you really face that, that's the only way we can really overcome it. And facing it is the realization that you don't have to face it alone. You can talk to your peers, you can have conversations like we're having, and even like just listening to this is something that may be empowering, because just knowing that other people go through these struggles, there's similar struggles, you're not alone. I'm not the only one confused. Just knowing that is enough comfort to allow someone to find that extra energy to push through whatever their problem is. We spoke about multiple issues that face us as black men, and to tie up that higher education aspect, what are some issues as far as like perception as being a student in our institutions?
I think you have to challenge yourself to recognize the stereotypes around you and step through them and be that gateway for those around you.
Okay. And I think you just gotta kind of work to realize who you are and not let what others think, as well as not let what you may think of yourself and your own community define you.
All right, so that concludes our segment for today, and we thank you for joining us. I appreciate you, gentlemen. I love you both, and I really think that we spoke about some great topics today, and I feel like this conversation is something that was necessary. So I appreciate you both, and I want to thank you for being here and sharing your ideas.
No problem. You, brother.
All I need is one mic and a camcorder.